What's up, guys? So recently, Death Battle came up with a new video, and it is really versus battle community tradition that whenever versus battle comes out with, especially when that involves a DBZ character and a comic book character, we go in droves to make fun of it, insult the video, like scream about debunking everything they did wrong. And so while in this video, I do want to talk about their feats, the feats mentioned in the video, and who I think would win, and why I think that the outcome that they came up with was probably incorrect. I do I guess, want to do it in like a healthy, discussive way. I think that you know, with certain scalers and stuff, it can get really, for lack of a better word, cringe when they go after death battle videos. They scream about how and cry and whine about how they XYZ didn't represent their character the way they wanted to. They overwink the other character, etc. I don't think it's that big of a deal, right? I think they made a video. I think they did a reasonable job, and I do think I disagreed with their outcome, and I just want to talk about it. Not really like sensationalizing it. It's just, I think, a fun video to talk about as well. And it's fun because a lot of the scaling and feats are already done to a certain extent, so it's not like I have to go from the ground up here. Because I do think a lot of what Death Battle had was pretty good. There's just a few points I would disagree with, which I'm going to get into in this video. So, starting off, in terms of the speed scaling, I actually think that there was probably not a lot of disagreement to be had. I think that in general, most of what it did was they did in the video was pretty good. Maybe it does feel like it may be a bit of a highball for the DBZ, but they also did like a very generous job of applying the 50 times scaling to Super Saiyan Bardock. I think that there's a lot of contention about like the straight multipliers in Dragon Ball and whether or not that's like a fair way to scale. But generally, I think it's okay, and I think in this case, it makes a lot of sense, right? So for the main line of scaling we have for Nolan that I would have used, that I don't think they really mentioned in the video, is just that, generally combat speed in Invincible is kind of comparable to travel speed. It's kind of stated more or less, and characters are able to react to characters who fly about. So the main line of scaling is going to be Nolan and other Viltrumites just being able to travel across the universe in a matter of weeks. And so, based on that, you can get him to, I'd say similar levels to what Death Battle was saying. And I think that's reasonable. And then I think that the scaling for DBZ that they did was pretty good. I don't know if there's like a more generous line of scaling you could even use. And I guess, it's also worth noting, Bardock in his Super Saiyan form. So in his base, I believe his power level is stated to be about 10,000. With that 50 times multiplier, that should put him to 500,000, which puts him like pretty close, although not on the same level. I should just say pretty close to Frieza's level. In his base form, where Frieza base form is confirmed to be 530,000. Now I know a lot of people think that power levels and don't really make sense for power scaling, and I guess that makes sense because characters are able to mask their power levels, but it is still like a fairly reasonable way for us to evaluate some of the characters, especially in early Dragon Ball. There doesn't seem to be as big of consistency issues with it. It does seem like it's relatively feasible to use, and also narratively it doesn't seem wrong to say that Super Saiyan Bardock would be around base Frieza if a little weaker. So in the main point of disagreement I think I have with the video comes in their scaling for AP. And so I think that generally for the Dragon Ball it's pretty fair. Super Saiyan Bardock should be able to destroy planets. He should scale relatively close to base Frieza, who's very casually able to destroy planet Vegeta with just his finger. But Omni-man is going to be where my main point of disagreement comes. So here they have him at 8.6 quintatons of TNT. And so the general scaling for the planet busting feat that happens in Invincible puts it a little less, although to be fair, this calc on the right does assume the planet is the size of Earth. And in the video, they address that, likely it would be larger. I think the main point of reference they had for that is 1, stronger gravity, and 2, the 5 moons that the planet has, right? So the math that they used instead used a some sort of disc that their weapon was able to destroy, and since the Viltrumites are stated to not be capable of being injured by any weapons that the Empire has, this they said can scale to the AP and durability of the Viltrumites, which I think is already like starting off like on a pretty bad premise. I think generally when you have a statement like, "Oh, we don't have any weapons that can hurt this character," and then you use that to pick out whatever the strongest, most like crazy planet busting weapon they have later in the series is, to scale those characters, it could be like a little tough. I think usually when it comes to stuff like that, you want your scaling to be a little more consistent. You want it to kind of have like multiple showings that keep it at a level, right? Like generally, we do have outlier feats, and this feels like it would be one of them, because really everything else that the characters have done does not quite show this level of power. But even if we were to be generous and assume this, I do think that the line of scaling that they used here was maybe a little disingenuous. And here is why I think that, right? So, for the calculation they used, they assumed this. They called it it's called the Lagrange point, which is like a distance an object needs to be to hover, for lack of a better word, between two objects. Like just kind of being trapped in both of their gravitational pulls in like equal parts, and thus just sitting in between, like very stable, right? Not like rotating around. In a sense, to be a satellite of two different celestial bodies, right? So this is the calc they used, and so this formula on the top is going to be the most important reference, right? Theta is going to represent the apparent size of an object, which is how big it looks from wherever you're standing, which is going to be given in an angular size, right? We use angles to measure apparent size. So the formula we have here, lowercase d is going to be the diameter of the object, and capital D is going to be the distance of the object from the observer. Worth noting that for these calcs, I'm going to be assuming that because I think the distance that people have, or that like I was able to find on the internet, from a Lagrange point to a planet is like it assumes the closest point on the surface of the planet. So you can, I guess, extend it to be a little bigger by instead like replacing the diameter of the object, or the distance by like a slightly bigger number, but I don't think it's going to make a radical difference. It's not going to change like the magnitude of the calculation. It's just going to change it by like plus or minus, I guess, like 25% probably at most. So sorry for the rambling, but here is more or less the way I go about the calculation, right? And this is me again trying to emulate the calculation that they had in the Death Battle video. But the problem with the Death Battle video is they weren't very clear about a lot of the assumptions that they had to make for the calculation. For example, the distance of the planet to the star that they're measuring it based off of, the size of the star. You could assume that maybe they would have just like approximated to be about the sun. But again, they didn't really state that. So there's a lot of variability, and also even just like the size of the planet, right? But so what I did was I took two cases, right? I took the Earth case. So I did the calculation with the planet Earth to get like a baseline. Earth is, according to them, going to be like reasonably smaller than the Viltrumite planet, or I mean the planet in Invincible that they used for this feat. And I also used Jupiter, which is going to be a planet that is a good deal bigger than the planet they probably assumed for this feat, just going off of the number of moons. And to a certain extent, like the size of a planet does scale off of how many moons it has in orbit, just because like the higher gravitational pull, the higher chance of you yoinking space rocks or whatever to eventually become a moon or a satellite of the planet. That being said, so Earth has 1 moon, Jupiter has like 60 something moons, and this planet that they're using has like 5. So reasonable to say that Jupiter would be a highball for this. But basically, Apparent distance of the sun from the Earth is about 0.00873 radians. I used the distance of the L1 point, which is very easy to find online, of 1.5 million kilometers. Then using the formula, I was able to find that the distance, or rather the diameter of the object, the satellite that would be hovering at the Lagrange point, would have to be about 1.3 times 10 to the 7th meters, or a measly 13,000 kilometers. And compared to the diameter of the sun, obviously, it doesn't come close, right? The sun is about 1.4 million kilometers in diameter. So, like over 100 times bigger than this object that we are discussing. That Death Battle, I guess, assumed would have to be half of the diameter of the sun, where again, like, maybe their line of scaling makes sense with the numbers they use, but the problem is, even in their description, they didn't include any link to the calculation, how exactly they determined it. And it is like a novel, how do you say, a new line of scaling that we don't really have like consistent, like it doesn't really exist online. So it would have been nice if they posted that. It's like really my one main gripe with the way they handled the video. But continuing, now using Jupiter, where the apparent size of the sun is a little different, right? But really, it is about the same as it's going to be to the Earth. You can look it up. I think that like the apparent size in terms of angle doesn't really change between Earth and Jupiter, just because I guess the sun is so big and so far away that it doesn't really matter. So I did round here for that. But in terms of the distance, it is a good deal bigger. Rather a good deal farther away, and also a good deal bigger. And I think that what that means is that the distance to the Lagrange point increases by a good amount. So I did adjust the numbers to this, and in this case, the size of the object that would need to be to have the same angular size as the sun would be about 450,000 kilometers, which is a good size for sure. It's pretty big, about a third of the size of the sun. But again, I don't really get where in the scaling they would have had to like tweak the numbers to be getting that the diameter of the object, the satellite, would have to be 50% the diameter of the sun. I think it's, like, frankly, a little ridiculous. I really do wish that they were a little more clear about what they used. And especially considering, Jupiter is going to be likely way bigger, even off their reasoning, way bigger than the planet like showed in Invincible with the 5 moons, given that Jupiter has like 60 something and is just massively massive, right? So even if you take Jupiter, which is going to be a high ball, we still can't get to that like level of size that they claim in the Death Battle, which I think is going to like really hurt their argument. And like I get it. I think that these calculations are very fun to do, very fun to look at. And I think that, Death Battle would be a little better off if they were just like a little more willing to share in more detail. Like not even in the video, it could just be in the comment section. But that's going to be like my main point of disagreement is like even if you play their game and you like try to scale based on the numbers they give you, it really doesn't check out. It just seems like there's some sort of like problem in the way that they do it, or some assumptions that they're making that they're not making clear, that make it hard to, I guess, like peer review, for lack of a better word, the work that they come up with. So then, treating that feat as an outlier, we do get similar levels of AP, I believe, and I think that's fair. I think that saying the Viltrumites scale to even like small planet level based on the feat of destroying the planet is maybe unfair. I think it's way less. The planet that they destroyed, again, despite being large, was admittedly like unstable. They utilized laser in addition to the 3 Viltrumites destroying it. So like, I think that you saying that they're even like a third of a planet level is like maybe fair, but saying that they're straight planet level is probably a little much. And especially considering, I think Super Saiyan Bardock should be scaling way above a simple planet level, because King Vegeta is capable of destroying planets. Frieza is very easily and very casually able to destroy a planet, and Bardock is gonna be like around Frieza's level with his Super Saiyan multipliers. So just in terms of general AP, I do think that's where Death Battle mostly got it wrong. And in terms of the other these other categories that they had, I think they did a pretty good job. I think versatility going to Bardock makes a lot of sense. Just having the key powers is going to really make the main difference there. While stamina and experience makes sense for Nolan, right? He's pretty much unlimited stamina, way older, and so thus would have like a lot more experience. But just in terms of like, if you have a character who has more versatility, more speed, and as I like discussed in this video, more strength, then for the most part, without like major hacks, he is going to like win the fight. And that for that reason, I do think Super Saiyan Bardock does very easily clear this fight. And again, like I don't dislike the way that Death Battle goes about their scaling. I actually really like it. I think that the math is really fun. I just emphasize, I do think that they do kind of a bad job conveying the calculations that they do. And if not that, then they do some sort of like, maybe even like disingenuous like winking with the numbers that they don't make clear, which, I think is going to be like the main thing that hurts it. But again, I love Death Battle. This isn't like a Death Battle hate video. It's more so just, I enjoy talking about this. I feel like it'd be fun, and this isn't coming from a place of malice. So, that's really all I have for this video, and I hope that the scaling that I did for the math makes sense. I did do my best to explain it like pretty thoroughly, and all of the math that I did use is on that page, and any of the numbers that I used can be like verified. They're going to be like very easy to find on Google. So if people want to try it out for themselves and see if they can come up with numbers that are closer to Death Battles, or maybe like way smaller than Death Battles, and like please feel free. And feel free to like drop stuff in the comments. I'm very happy to help anybody who has any questions about the math, because I don't want to commit the same fallacy, because I'm not going to include anything in my description. Obviously, all of my math I did is right on the slide. But if people want to like try to verify it, please feel free. And also, if you like this video, please subscribe, comment, like. Let me know if this is the kind of stuff you guys enjoy. I did really have fun like doing like the math calculations, although that's not normally how I do the scaling. So if that's something people are interested in, something people want to see, like let me know. I am curious, and feedback just really helps me to push out the kind of video quality that people want to see. So that's all I have for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and have a good one.